Good evening, Dr. Lucy. My name is Muhammad Saleh bin Rohilan with metric number 75918. I will be the presenter for the final assessment for the subject Negotiation and Conflict Resolution in International Relation. The other member in this group is Muhammad Fakri bin Mustafa with metric number 75691. And today, I will be presenting the topic, the influence of positioning theory in Russia-Ukraine conflict. Positioning theory is a sociological concept that has been used to the study of international relations in order to gain a better understanding of nations and other entities position themselves in the arena of global affairs. Positioning theory in the field of international relations places an emphasis on the discursive creation of identities as well as the way in which actors position themselves and are positioned by the other through the use of language. This viewpoint acknowledges the language is not only a medium of communications, but also a means of constructing the molding the reality of our social and political worlds. Next, I will move to the background of the positioning theory in Russia-Ukraine conflict. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine began in 2014 as a direct result of Russia's annexation of Crimea and the subsequent unrest that broke out in the eastern Ukraine. The conflict can be traced back in the historical, political, and cultural difficulties between Russia and Ukraine, as well as divergent perspective on the region's potential future costs of development, which contribute to the conflict. Now I will start the positioning theory in Russia-Ukraine conflict. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which has been marked by territorial disputes and geopolitical tensions, has caused significant repercussions for the stability of the surrounding region as well as for the international relations. Positioning theory can be used to provide a framework for understanding how both Russia and Ukraine position themselves in relation to one another, as well as how each country constructs its identity and pursue its goals in the context of the conflicts between Russia and Ukraine. Both Russia and Ukraine are striving to impose their influence and maintain their strategic positions amidst the ongoing conflict between them. This has created the complex power relation between two countries. Russia has positioned itself as a defender of Russian-speaking population in Ukraine and as a guardian of what is perceived to be its own national security interests. This positioning comes as a result of the Ukrainian government's action in the Donbass region. On the other side, the Ukraine portrays itself as a sovereign state that is devoted in preserving in its territorial integrity while also working towards greater institutional cohesion with Western organizations. The posture of Ukraine places the emphasis on the country's dedication to democracy and European principles, as well as its desire to remove itself historical influence of Russia. Both Russia and Ukraine have shown that they have same level of control over the crisis by the strategic decision and action that they have taken in order to assert its position and exert influence over the events taking place on the ground. Russia has resorted to the use of military force, economic pressure, and information warfare. It seeks to keep influence over Ukraine's political trajectory while also attempting to mold the story that is being told about the crisis. On the other side, Ukraine has been actively seeking international support, participating in diplomatic dialogue and enacting domestic change in the effort of improve its position and oppose Russian aggression. Next, I will move to the key factors of the positioning theory in Russia-Ukraine conflict. First one is strategic positioning. Russia, seeing NATO as expansion as the danger to the national security, has positioned itself as a defender of ethnic Russian and Russian-speaking population in Ukraine. This location enabled Russia to defend its military intervention in Crimea and support for the separatist activities in eastern Ukraine as a vital for ensuring its security. Russia and Ukraine's position are influenced by historical narrative and cultural links. Russia focused on its historical ties to Crimea and eastern Ukraine, presenting its activities as a defense of Russian culture and tradition. Ukraine, on the other hand, assert its distinct national identities and historical desire for independence from Russian dominance. Ukraine, on the other side, seeks to assert its autonomy and strengthen ties with Western institutions such as the European Union and NATO. The conflict is a struggle for influence and control over Ukraine's geopolitical orientations. Seeking foreign support and forming alliance are examples of strategic positioning in the conflict. Ukraine portrays itself as a victim of Russian aggression and seek for Western helps, particularly from the United States and the European Union. This partnership bolster Ukraine's strategic position by providing diplomatic support, economic help, and security guarantees. These activities try to strengthen their own positions, discredit the other party, and change worldwide public opinion in their favor. Next is territorial claims. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is characterized by territorial disputes with competing claims over Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. The territorial claims of both Russia and Ukraine are heavily influenced by historical account and cultural link. By highlighting its historical and cultural ties to the area, Russia defends the right of the ethnic Russian and Russian-speaking inhabitants by intervening in Crimea and eastern Ukraine. On the other hand, Ukraine emphasized its historical right to the Crimea and certain of the eastern regions, presenting this area as essential to its sense of national identity. Utilizing historical account of the independence and claim its right to control its own integrity, Ukraine sees itself as the lawful sovereign of these areas. The importance of Crimea and eastern Ukraine as geostrategic location in the essential component of both countries' territorial claims to those regions because of its proximity to the Black Sea and the presence of Russian naval base in Sevastopol. Russia placed a high strategic value on the Crimea Peninsula. Russia's positioning in the Crimea is motivated by its desire to continue exercising control over these strategic assets and to project dominance in the surrounding area. In the context of Ukraine, Crimea and the eastern regions are significant not only due to the historical and cultural contributions they have made, but also due to the economic and geopolitical value they hold. According to the Anniversary, Ukraine based its claim on these territories on the resources, economic potential, and role they play in the sustaining a cohesive national territory in those areas. After that is geopolitical interest. There are so many differences faced by Russia's geopolitical interest in the crisis in Ukraine. Russia sees Ukraine's prospective alignment with the European Union and NATO as a direct danger to its power in the region. This perception is shared by the United States. It considers Ukraine to be an indispensable component and its sphere of influence and strive to keep Ukraine as a buffer zone between itself and the force of the West. The possibility of Ukraine joining Western institutions constitute as a huge geopolitical setback for Russia because it will reduce Russia's regional dominance and might potentially encircle it with governments that are unfriendly to Russia. Besides that, we have energy resources. An economic element has been included into the conflict between Russia and Ukraine as a result of the region's abundant energy resource, most notably its national gas pipeline. Both Russia and Ukraine have been able to gain power in discussion thanks to the control that have over power resources and infrastructure, which in turn has had an effect on the dynamic of the conflict. As a country that transit for gas supplies coming from Russia to Europe, uh, Ukraine is an extremely important player. Gazprom, one of the state-owned Russian gas firm, places a significant amount of reliance on pipeline located in Ukraine in order to deliver its natural gas to markets located in Europe. The energy dependence of the European nation on Russian gas supply produce an interdependence that impact the negotiating strength and geopolitical positioning of both Russia and Ukraine. In the context of positioning theory, energy resources play a critical role in the establishing Russia and Ukraine's position and identities. Russia portrays itself as a major supplier of energy and will its control over gas supplies as a tool for exercising political power. Russia's goal is to preserve its status as the major player in the energy market while also advancing its own geopolitical goals. Both Russia and Ukraine can advance their respective position, exert influence, and the shape of negotiations through their control of energy, resources, and infrastructure. This is a tool that can be used by both countries in order to comprehend the larger dynamics and ramifications of the Russia-Ukraine wars. It is essential to have a solid understanding of the economic aspect of the conflict, notably the role of the energy resources play in the equation. Lastly is a security concern. The security implications of the conflict are critical to comprehending its intricacies and potential effect that ongoing military activities in eastern Ukraine have contributed to an unstable security environment. These efforts have included the deployment of Russian force as well as the engagement of pro-Russian rebel groups. The fighting and the battle between these organizations and Ukrainian force have resulted in losses, the displacement of civilians and severe damage to the infrastructure. In addition, the fighting and skirmish have caused major damage. Russia and Ukraine have resorted to employing hybrid warfare strategies including economic pressure, cyber attacks, and disinformation campaign. These strategies sow seeds of distrust, manipulate public opinion, and undermine political stability. The crisis has strained relations between Russia and NATO, influencing Euro-Atlantic security dynamics. As a deterrent measure, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is NATO, has increased its military presence in Eastern Europe in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea and its aggressive action towards Ukraine. This has resulted in a cycle of military build-out and countermeasures, which has resulted in an increased danger of unintentional accidents or the possibility of the military conflict. Strategic positioning, territory claim, and geopolitical interests have intermingled and contribute to the conflict's complexity and intractability. Addressing these underlying issues, engaging its conversation, and locating a solution that is mutually acceptable while still respecting the interests of all parties concerned with regards to their sovereignty and security would be required in order to bring an end to the war. In conclusion, analyzing the Russia and Ukraine conflict through the lens of positioning theory provided valuable insight into the negotiation dynamic between these two countries. The conflict is marked by strategic identity construction, where Russia positioned itself as a global power and protector of Russian-speaking population, while Ukraine positioned itself as an independent nation striving for sovereignty. Power dynamic play a significant role with Russia perceived advantage influencing positioning strategies and negotiations outcome. Overall, positioning theory highlight the complex interplay of identity, framing, power, communication, and social norm in the Russia and Ukraine conflict. By understanding how both parties strategically position themselves and engage in negotiation tactics, we gain a deeper understanding of the underlying dynamics and motivation at play.